making sure that we are live. And it looks like I don't see. Oh, yep, we're live. Okay, we're all good. So we'll get the show started in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to BatYard's Finest, bringing you the finest of Batman and Superman and pop culture. From BatYard Productions, I am Josh, and I guess we'll go with Leah. Yeah, we'll go in order.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leah.
And hi, everyone. I'm Steven.
Steven, thank you again for coming on our show. This is our first live interview broadcast of this podcast. That's a lot to say. So we're going to get this just kind of moving along, and hopefully things come out the best, for the best. So Leah, you take it away.
All right. So, Steven, you are a collector of Universal Monsters. You are a podcast beginner, entrepreneur, pioneer with the Saturday morning Superman show. Let's start off with the Universal Monsters. How did you fall in love with such an innovative time of history?
Well, first of all, I have to say again, Leah, Josh, thank you so much for having me. Leah, thank you for a wonderful, exciting, rousing introduction. I hope I live up to it. But I will say this. I grew up with the Universal Monsters and comic books. They were always a big part of my family, for my grandparents and for my parents. So generationally, that love was passed down. And I remember my grandfather was the first one to take me to the comic book store, along with being the first person to talk about Dracula and Frankenstein and Mummy. And I remember every Halloween, my father, would dress up as the Wolfman, and my mom would use makeup and transform him into as Lon Chaney Jr.-esque Wolfman as she could. And I remember I'd watch my dad go from being my father to a monster, and it was so scary and frightening because it would be like, I know that's still my dad, but it's also a classic monster. And so I was always exposed to all these things that I still celebrate to this day. And growing up, I was born in 1989, and the 90s were a big period for the Universal Monsters, from, just them being everywhere, from like Pepsi to Doritos ads to the Brendan Fraser movies that were coming out, and even Goosebumps. The Mummies, it was a big time for like the Mummy and all of that stuff. So it's always been there for me, just as much as Superman has. And it was in 2016 where one of my friends and I, we had been freelance writing for different sites, and we were at a point where we just thought, you know what, we want to create something of our own. And imagine, being the person that creates the Marvel Cinematic Universe blog or social media channel when Iron Man 1 came out. And imagine still having that by the time like Endgame comes out. And this is at the early stages for Universal Monsters, where they were only talking about doing a new Mummy movie, a new Invisible Man movie. And we just thought, let's create something for the Universal Monsters and just blog about it and talk about it in a meaningful and in a way that we know how, because we love it. And 5 years later, we're here, and the webpage and the Instagram, all of it's taken a life of its own. And I've been very fortunate to be a part of that community, along with having an involvement with some of the movies. And also I love Superman.
Wow. That's awesome. When did you get Universal Monsters started? What year was this?
It was 5 years ago. It was in 2016. It was actually, we just celebrated our 5-year Monsterversary, as I like to call it, just last month.
Oh, well, congratulations. Congratulations on the 5-year Monsterversary. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's exciting. It's strange because when we first started, it's one of those things that, with all the things that we create, be it like an Instagram page or a podcast, the first listeners are always like, our friends and our family. And nobody else knows about it, and then slowly it starts to grow. And,
it kind of builds like a snowball. It just keeps kind of going down.
Completely, and we've all been very fortunate in through BatYard's Finest, through Universal Monsters Universe and everything, to really enjoy the community aspect of it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's awesome. once you kind of get yourself out there, the more you do it, the more people will notice you, and hopefully chime in too, which we always appreciate here at BatYard's Finest. Anyone's welcome here, so that's why we try to bring out to the community, the fans, and I'm sure you like to do the same. Get that community fan interaction, like one-on-one. It's the best.
It's so much fun, and that's actually something that touches on like when we were chatting last week together. I love talking with people. I love talking with people, and I love talking with fellow fans because, like, for me growing up, I remember, not everybody was reading Spider-Man, not everybody was watching Batman the animated series, and it wasn't like it is now, and so to see that like the community's grown, but everybody loves this stuff, and everybody gets excited about these cartoons and these movies. It's really fun to have like-minded people and really cool people to talk to about it. And just like you, I'm always up for having a discussion about like, our favorite DC animated universe episodes and Zack Snyder's Justice League and, all the Universal monster movies that are being, planned and developed.
Yeah, there's a lot of big news coming out. I mean, it's an exciting time to at least be a DC Superman fan, a DC fan. I'm not sure what's going on. Is there anything going on with Universal Monsters? Have they announced any movies coming out?
They have, yeah. And it's exciting because you would think that over the course of 2020, movie news would have been really quiet because
right.
There wasn't any
everything's kind of halting.
But yet there were so many different announcements that we got over the course of that year, and from, I'd say, end of 2019 to really just about a month ago, there have been a total of 12 new Universal Monster movies that have been announced.
Oh, geez. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just know the last thing they did was The Invisible Man. That's the last movie that I heard about.
Yeah, and I think that for a lot of people is the last movie that a lot of people saw in the movies.
Yeah,
before.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That was like right before. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there like a new like Dracula movie coming out, or like?
Yeah, there's like 4 new Dracula variations being worked on. There's a new take on Dracula, which was the most recent announcement. That Chloe Zhao, the director, the Golden Globe nominated, and the director who actually won just last week for Nomadland. She's also the director of the upcoming Marvel movie, The Eternals. She's developing like a very radical, very science fiction, Western, futuristic take on Dracula. And then there are other versions of it that are going to be in the Universal Blumhouse tradition.
Oh, I see.
Harken more back to like the book and be a little smaller scale, but very horror, very scary stuff.
Yeah, that's what I like. I like when things kind of get to almost its simplest form and like just scales everything down. And when it becomes like too much on the screen, I can't even handle what like process what's going on. So
you lose what it's actually about.
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
can't even know what the thing's about, then it's forget all the technology and beautiful effects because it's like, well, what am I even watching here?
Well, movies today, just every movie has beautiful effects, so you can't really say, oh well, at least I have good special effects, because basically every movie now has good special effects.
Oh yeah, and that I kind of want to bounce off of that because I think that's a wonderful. I mean, from both Josh and Leah, what you both said. Leah, I have to agree with you because I feel like with the Universal Monster movies, if you look at the budget of what it costs a studio to make those movies in like 1930s, 1940s, with inflation today, they're roughly only about 10 million. So when somebody says like, oh, we're going to do a new monster movie and it's going to be $200 million, to me, that scares me because it's like, well, there's no need for it to be that much. For a $10 million budget now, you could do something where it's very practical, like the practical effects, the practical makeup really drive the picture. And that's so much of the charm of those other ones. But then Josh, what you said, yeah, everything today has, like magnificent effects. We're recording this, live on Wednesday, the day after the second episode of Superman and Lois on the CW. And I was watching that yesterday, and I mean, I feel like they could blow that up in a movie theater.
Yeah, it looked really cinematic.
Like a movie.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I only seen the pilot. I haven't seen the second episode yet, but I did like what they're doing with the pilot. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see the second episode.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah, yeah. I hope so. I really like what they're doing because like you were saying, it's like very grand scale and it's very cinematic. I mean, I thought it was the best looking CW show that came out. I mean, I only seen, bits and pieces of Arrow. I was watching The Flash. I kind of fell off it, and now I'm, jumping on this, and it looks like a movie, like you're saying.
Completely, yeah. I watched, of course, like the early DC Arrowverse CW stuff. Like, I watched a few episodes of Arrow and Flash and Supergirl, but I kind of feel like, especially like as shows kind of go on where they're like at their like 7th and 8th season, if it's not really like the character that I really love, I kind of lose interest in it.
Yeah.
It's like we subscribe, we pick up our comic books, but then like by issue like 80 something, unless it's like really the character you love, you kind of like, you end up dropping it. But with Superman, I was excited for it because naturally it's a new incarnation of Superman. It's a new version of the character in live action. So you can't go wrong with that. But I was worried, I wasn't sure what to think about the plot. I know we'll probably discuss more of this later, but it's been great.
Yeah, no doubt. There's endless supply of Superman news that we could definitely talk about. I'm really excited. I mean, for those of you who don't know, we actually had Steven on the podcast last week. It didn't really work out so hot, so that's why we're doing it live, and I think it's actually working out definitely a lot more smoothly than that last week, because it was just, we're kind of doing a take two, so you get to see this a little more polished today, everyone. But yeah, Steven, thank you for coming back on the show. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like last week was like the Joss Whedon version of Justice League.
Yeah, it was like the test run. Yeah, exactly.
We're getting the real thing right now.
Yeah, we're getting the whole league together. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No CGI. We kept our mustaches on for this one. We didn't CGI in our mouth. Yeah, no doubt. That's awesome. So, Steven, I wanted to ask you, how do you got, since you were talking about how you got started with Monsters Universe, how did you kind of transition into the podcast world?
Well, so it actually really goes surprisingly hand in hand with one another, because in the early days, probably like maybe within the first year of Universal Monsters Universe, one of the questions that I was asked routinely was like, when are you guys going to do a podcast? When are you going to do a monster podcast? And it was something that I really wanted to get into. And mind you, I feel like podcasting now, like in 2020, 2021, is so much different than what is like maybe 5 years ago. Like, it's really exploded with the amount of people that are developing exciting content and the amount of people that really want to like tune in and listen to the content. So I wanted to do a Monsters one, and it was one of those things where, I had a few people lined up that were going to record with me, but it just never happened. It would be like, oh, we're going to record this Wednesday, and Wednesday would come around and everybody would be busy. So I put it on the back burner and really just kind of like said, if it ever happens, it happens, but if not, that's like not my main pursuit. And so it was in summer 2019 where I was working at my comic shop, my local comic shop in Queens, New York, Royal Collectibles at the time. And one of my friends who would routinely come into the shop, his name's Jason. He's a fireman, big Superman guy too. And we were just kind of talking about Superman, and I was commiserating over the fact that at the time, we still didn't know if we were going to get a Man of Steel 2, and with Henry Cavill, it's always like every other week, it's like, oh, he's going to do 5 more movies. And then it's like, nope, we have to confirm that that's not going to happen. It's like this, it's like this really bittersweet, awful thing where it's like, oh, we're going to get him. No, we're not. And we still don't know. But so I was joking about it, saying that the thing that's going to bring me back as the Superman fan that I am is going to be doing a Superman podcast. And he was like, oh, Steve, you should totally do a Superman podcast. And what's it going to be about? And I'm like, well, it's going to be about Superman in animation, but across generations. And it's going to be about Bruce Timm, and it's going to be about Fleischer, and it's going to be awesome. And he's like, man, you got to do that. And we were really just messing around.
Yeah.
And I wasn't serious about it. But I got home that night from work, and I was thinking, well, shoot, I think I should do this. And I was looking at, like, in the podcasting arena, and there really weren't that many Superman podcasts. And specifically, there wasn't really any other podcast other than one podcast about Superman, the animated series specifically. And so I thought, you know what, I think I should do this. And it happened within a month where I started talking to a few people that I knew, and they immediately were like, Steven, if you're doing something, we want to be involved with it. And within the month of June 2019, we did the intro, the outro. We got a sponsor, and
wow.
and we recorded the whole first 2 seasons over the course of the summer. And we're still airing that second season. We're still
That's awesome.
in the process of airing it. And
it's great to have a
that's
backlog.
the humble
like
origins of that's the Action Comics 1 story of the Saturday Morning Superman.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that story. I like how it's just kind of, well, obviously you're passionate about it because like you're kind of saying off the cuff, like first thing you want, and like you don't really have to think about it. If it's just like you instantly, that's the first thing that comes out of your mouth. It's going to be the, that's what you want, so you should just get out there and get what your instincts are telling you, and that's what they're telling you, and that's awesome.
How about this?
Yeah, is that the is that Blu-ray or is that
No, I wish the Blu-ray is the thing that we're all hoping for.
I don't think that has come out. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I had them like individually when they're like in the they were like cardboard packaging. That's what I had them. There's like the 3 seasons. That's great to have it in one big plastic box like that, especially if you have younger nephews, because mine got destroyed, especially how they're made out of paper. They're kind of, they're all over the place. So I'm hoping for that Blu-ray where, I could keep it safe.
well, the thing is, what's so exciting right now is that's like another thing. It's like this mythic thing that amongst Superman and us DC Animated Universe fans is that, like, when is it coming out on Blu-ray? Like, they did Batman animated series, when is Superman coming out? And it was like about a week ago. It was actually just 1 week ago today that HBO Max announced an HD remastered version of Superman animated series for HBO Max, which premieres, I think, on March 16th, or the 17th, whatever it is. It's the day before Zack Snyder's Justice League begins. And I feel like, okay, if we're getting an HD streaming version of Superman, the animated series, a Blu-ray has to be, not far behind.
I think it's just a matter of time. Sometime this year we'll get it, because they did Batman Beyond, they did Batman the animated series. I don't know. I don't think they did Justice League yet, did they?
I don't. They might have.
Yeah.
They might have, or it might have been announced. I think last year or something.
Yeah, I know they definitely
like
did the 2 Batman. Yeah. The only one I know for sure is definitely the 2 Batman series. That's it. I have Batman the animated series. I don't have the other one. I don't have Batman Beyond the animated series. Maybe someday I'll get it. But I'm really excited to see Superman the animated series just in HD in general. Being on HBO Max. I actually have access to it, so I'll be able to watch it. So I'm very excited to see that again.
I apologize. So since we're talking about TV shows, now Sasha Kai is going to be Supergirl, and you have posted immensely on your Instagram about that. So obviously I have to ask you, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I mean, I have so many thoughts on it. It's interesting because I get so excited talking about this, because the thing is, it's just the prospect of knowing that we're going to be getting a new edition of the Super Family on the big screen, which I think is so cool. And I'll say this to preface it all, is that I think as a Superman fan, we've been conditioned to learn to be really very patient, because Superman films happen so far and few in between. You had the 4th Christopher Reeve movie, but then it wasn't until 2006 where you got Returns with Ralph, and then it wasn't until 2013 that you got Man of Steel with Cavill. And so I think anytime, like whenever there's going to be a Superman movie announcement, I don't care what it is, I'm there for it, because I just want to see Superman art. I just want to see that power set displayed on screen. But when Sasha was cast as Supergirl, it was so cool because it was so unexpected. I think, like nobody ever wakes up and is expecting these movie announcements to happen, or these cartoon announcements to happen. So like, I think to wake up, that wasn't even something that I was thinking about. And I remember people started tagging me like crazy, like on my personal Instagram, on Superman. And I'm like somebody was like, oh, like, what do you think about Supergirl? And I'm thinking they're talking about the TV show, and I'm like, well, yeah, I think Melissa's great.
Yeah.
She's cool. And they're like, no, about the movie, and I'm like, well, like, what are you talking about? And so I had to do a quick Google, but yeah, Sasha Kaye, I think it's going to be fantastic. I think it's such an inspired choice. She's an unknown, she's more so an unknown than getting somebody of a much bigger stature, and I think that's the way to go. I think it's going to be so exciting to know that probably within the next 5 to 10 years, she's going to be the face of this character, and everybody, you're going from right now where it's a very niche conversation where, like, amongst all of us fans and people that follow this kind of movie news, we know who she is because, like, oh yeah, we're excited about it. But I think for the much wider market, by the time Flash comes out, I think a lot of people are going to really be on board with it. And Flash sounds exciting with everybody that they have in it.
Yeah.
But to use that as a springboard for a potential Supergirl franchise and to have her, I think it's so exciting. And especially, I do like the inspired casting choice. I do like that, that you're getting like she's Colombian. I think that's really an exciting take on the character. It's something that we've never seen before, and she looks great. I think I've seen, like, we've all seen different, like, concept art, of her that, like, different artists have done, and yeah, I mean, I think she's gonna be great.
It's also really important too, for representation, because young people are going to see this, beautiful young Colombian woman, and they're going to say, hey, I can do that too. It's not just for the, the blonde-haired, blue eyes anymore. It's everybody.
Completely. And again, it's like that multiverse thing. Like, we're always going to have Supergirl in animation, be it through DC Superhero Girls or like with Melissa Benoist, which she did across, like, the 5 or 6 seasons, like the 5 or so seasons of Supergirl, and Helen Slater, Laura Vandervoort, all of them. So to see that, a new take on Supergirl for today's audiences, where girls could go see that, but, like, anybody could really go see that and see themselves in that character, I think that's really cool. And I mean, Superman, at the end of the day, Supergirl, those characters have always been about inspiration and hope. So I think that to know that there's going to be a much more wider and diverse array of people that are going to want to run into a comic shop and pick up a Supergirl comic and then read about her cousin. I mean, Superman fans, we'll take all the fans we can get. We love the character.
Yeah,
we
definitely.
want more people to love the character.
Exactly.
Join the family. Join the club. Come.
Yeah.
We'll take you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people kind of just see what Superman kind of looks like in the forefront. They don't really get the full perspective of what the character is. They're like, oh, he's kind of old fashioned. He's not, he's not really for me. He's kind of lame or whatever. They even kind of addressed that in the pilot episode with his son playing Injustice, beating up Superman. He's like, oh yeah, Superman's lame, But I think if people actually kind of, take a wider lens and actually look at the character, like the overarching storyline, there's actually something pretty Shakespearean and beautiful about it, and, like, it's almost biblical in a sense with comparisons to Moses and everything. So there's a lot to put into these stories, and Superman's a complex character to write for, and Supergirl, and especially with these power levels. But it kind of makes it more interesting when they do it right. Batman has all the rogues galleries. There's a lot to work with. He's pretty. I think most anyone could write a Batman story to an extent, but with Superman, he's kind of a little more challenging because he's so almost straight edge. You're like, all right, what can I do with him? But, like, once you actually get him into his niche and his where he's meant to be, it's perfect. And I think in the simplest forms, Superman works the best.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I think that there are a group of people that are widely dismissive of Superman just being too bland or too vanilla, I guess, if you want to say that. But it's the fact that, like, he really is such a complex character, and you're talking, not only about somebody that's positively, like, mythological, in not only American mythology, but, like, global mythology. Everybody knows that symbol.
Yeah.
Everybody knows who Superman is.
It's universal.
There's such a complex nature to the character that I don't think people really think about. And one of the things that I love about Superman the animated series, and even what Zack Snyder did, is I think a lot of people don't realize that Bruce Timm, in a lot of ways, really deconstructed Superman. Maybe not in as extreme a way as Zack Snyder did, but he definitely did something different with Superman the animated series, while it was still very much reflecting on what Dick Donner and George Reeves and even like Lois and Clark, like the New Adventures of Superman with like Dean Cain and all of that. He really kind of like challenged him. And every episode, Superman gets like, the kryptonite beat out of him, where it's like, he's going up against these challenges where he's not always coming out on top. And I think to present Superman in a way where there are these challenges and where there are these difficulties, and just the challenge, of course, of that duality of like, am I Clark Kent, am I Superman? I think that that's a really wonderful aspect to the character that's more relatable than you think. And you get the right person, or you spend enough time with the character, which is why I feel like Superman, the animated series, works so well, because you're talking about 50 plus episodes where you're really getting to spend time with them, as opposed to, you get like a 2-hour movie and then you have to wait, for, another 2-hour movie. But
yeah, exactly. Wait, like, well, it used to be like 6 years in between movies. Now with Marvel, and these comic book movies, it's getting back to back, but not with Superman, apparently not. But
well, I think it's important too, Stephen, that you mentioned, he doesn't always come out on top, and Superman is always portrayed, as the perfect guy. He's the gentleman, he's strong, he's handsome, whatever. But then you see that even the most, perfect of people are not always perfect. And Josh and I have watched quite a few episodes. I can't really even count how many we've watched, the animated series. And I always say, oh, I liked this about this episode. And then something completely different will happen. I say, oh, well, that's a new take that, even we didn't know about Superman. So I'm interested in watching them, even again, the ones we've already watched.
Yeah, we've been watching them a lot out of order. So we
hopefully when those Blu-rays come out, we'll renew our viewing.
Completely. Yeah. Well, I feel like I love that you've both been watching the episodes. It's so easy to just drop into that world, and I think that speaks so much to the quality of work that was done. With Batman the animated series, with Superman the animated series. We're talking about 90s animation, yet the character designs and the adult storytelling, it's timeless. And I feel like, with certain aspects, like with the movies, you have your people that are like, well, I love Christopher Reeve, I love Henry Cavill, but they have their favorites. But you can drop into the world of Superman the animated series, and whether you like, the Christopher Reeve movies or Cavill or Tom Welling, it doesn't really matter. It's so representative of the entire
that's very true.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, there are timeless episodes where you could watch a Dark Side episode, you could watch a Metello episode, you could watch a Lex episode. One of my favorite episodes off the top of my head is A Little Piece of Home, which is in season 1, where it's just about Lex Luthor testing Superman's abilities, and he discovers that he's allergic to kryptonite, and there's really nothing else going on just other than Superman going through a series of tests. And it's like, yeah, this is great. You're seeing Superman to his fullest extent. You're seeing him challenged. You're seeing him get put through the ringer. But then you're getting a timeless Lex story. You're getting a timeless Lois story, and the animation, the design work is just so iconic. You could show somebody a picture of that Clancy Brown Lex Luthor, and everybody's like, oh, that's Lex.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with like Batman. You could look at that Freeze or that Scarecrow or that Bruce Wayne even, and immediately, oh, that's Bruce Wayne. And it just speaks to the work of Bruce Timm and Paul Dini and Alan Burnett and really all of them.
Yeah, it does kind of touch on all those different realms of Superman. Like if you want to go back to like a Smallville kind of feeling episode, go to, I forget what's the episode's the title of it, but they focus on just going into Smallville, and all these future rogues of Superman come down and attack him with Brainiac and everything like that. And then we get other darker episodes like him versus Darkseid. We get more small scale episodes, just him and Lex, so you get the whole box of flavors with each episode, and they're all different.
And they're so good. They're just so good. I mean, from the voice talent of like Tim Daly. I mean, like Tim, you talk about like, you know, people that are widely recognizable for, you know, their work. And it's like, I think you could ask somebody, who's your favorite Batman? And there's going to be no shock that somebody could say, oh, it's Kevin Conroy. And I feel like it's the same thing with Superman, where it's like, who's your favorite Superman? Tim Daly. Because it's just like, they brought so much to that character. And for me, whenever I'm reading a Superman or Batman comic, the voice I hear is Conroy and Daly. It's like their voice.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. That's how I read the comic books too. So is Tim Daly your ultimate favorite Superman? Awesome. Yeah, that's a good choice.
I it's interesting because I watched Superman the animated series on and off when it aired between like 1996 to like the early 2000s and across those 3 seasons. But as a kid, I loved Batman. Batman the animated series was definitely the one that I was more excited by. It was probably about the year before Man of Steel came out, or maybe like the year of Man of Steel. I think it was like it was like about a month before Man of Steel came out, actually. That my mom and I would watch, my mom, dad, and I, we would watch one Superman episode a night leading up to the premiere of Man of Steel. And it was really over the course of summer 2013 that I became like the Superman animated series fan that I am. And Tim Daly is just, to me, he's the best Superman. That's my favorite version of Superman. And I love Cavill. Like Cavill's, you know, he's one of my favorite, you know, theatrical versions. But yeah, Tim Daly and Superman animated series. If I had to re-answer a question from last week, Superman the animated series and Tim Daly are my favorite versions of Superman.
Well, it's just Tim Daly's birthday the other day, and I saw that you had a picture with him. Do you want to explain how you met your favorite Superman?
Yeah, I would love to. So Tim Daly, you know, as a Superman fan, I will say this: I'm very supportive of fandoms. I'm very supportive of fans, but I can't help but be just a little bit jealous of the Batman the animated series fans out there, because it's like you get so much with Batman the animated series. And so when DC Collectibles did that whole line of action figures where they released like several a year, I kept on thinking, well, one, I got to get them, but two, like, why? There's somewhere in this multiverse. If we're in a multiverse, there's definitely an Earth 1996. Where Superman the animated series is the main popular one,
right?
And Batman isn't.
It's still the number one go-to, yeah.
Yeah, and in that version, like that's where we get all the Superman the animated series things, and all the Batman fans are like, "Oh, when is Batman gonna have his day?" But Kevin Conroy, you know, he does a lot of like the different shows. He's somebody that's accessible. So if you're a Batman the animated series fan, there's that possibility. There's a high likelihood that you could meet him at some point or get an autograph or whatnot. Whereas Tim Daly really, you know, he doesn't really do any of that, just for no other reason than it's just like he's not. It's more George Newbern, the Superman from Justice League that you normally see around. And so I remember, you know, so I live in at the time, I was in Forest Hills, Queens, and they were filming Madam Secretary about 7 blocks away from my house. And I remember, ironically enough, like I had my Superman shirt on and everything.
Yeah.
And I remember, like
that was fate. That was fate. It was meant to happen.
It was. And so I go up and I see that they're filming Madam Secretary, and I'm like, oh shoot, like I think Tim Daly he might be here. So I just ran home. I got like this Superman the animated series publicity photo that I had back in the 90s. If you were to write to like Kids WB and talk about, you know, Superman or whatever, they'd actually send you like a photo, like a publicity still.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I had that for the longest time, and I always thought if I could ever meet Tim Daly, I'd want him to sign that. So I run back, and so I've got my Superman shirt on already. I was just wearing it that day. And sure enough, Tim Daly is there. They take a break, and he's just hanging out. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go up and be really cool about it. And he couldn't have been nicer. And I went up, and I was like, Mr. Daly, my name's Steven. I love Superman. I love The Daily Show. He really could not have been
nicer. Oh yeah, the Daily Show.
Yeah. And he could not have been nicer. He joked around a bit about Superman, and it's really one of my most treasured moments because again, like he's not somebody that you really routinely see all that often. So to have had the opportunity to meet Tim Daly, the voice and of Superman, and also my favorite Superman, it was really, really exciting. So for his birthday, I had to do that photo. I had to put that out there.
Oh, that's great. I thought, like, when I originally saw it, I thought it was just, like, at a convention or something. But that's so cool that you went through all these hurdles. And it was, like, it was more like a natural occurrence. Like, you saw him naturally, like, on the street almost, you know, instead of predetermined. Yeah.
They were just filming in my neighborhood. He happened to be there. And it's, like, one of those things that, like, well, yeah, I mean, like, it was right in my neighborhood. And, you know. If I had the podcast then, I would have invited him back over to the house.
Right,
and said, let's do an episode.
That probably was the best feeling. I'm sure you could get him on this show at some point in time. Maybe do an interview or something.
Fingers crossed.
Well, Josh, you know, you always like to mention that you interviewed Kevin Conroy for, you know, a little bit. So it's very fortunate that both of you got to meet your Superman heroes.
Superman and Batman, yeah. So we went across. We're across the multiverse, yeah. So I went to the Batman universe. I saw Kevin Conroy just at a Comic-Con, and he wasn't announced to be there. It was at Ace Comic-Con in Long Island, and
I was there for that.
Oh, were you? Oh, yeah, wow. We probably passed each other, you know.
We probably did, yeah.
We probably did a little wave too, but you know what? No, that's crazy. Yeah, he wasn't even announced to be there. He was on the second floor, and then, you know, I talked to him, and then I went back down. We're doing like videos. It's on YouTube. It's BatYard at Ace Comic Con. We're just doing interviews with cosplayers and stuff. And then we went back up to Kevin Conroy. We're just saying, oh, maybe he's still there. Maybe he has a shorter line. And we went up to him, and I just asked him, you know, like I was just trying to come up with like 3 questions to ask him. And like literally during the interview, I'm just like peeing my pants. Like I was trying to do my total best to compose myself. And I actually got the words out of my system. And like I felt his, like when he was talking, like his Batman bass was like hitting my chest. I'm like, oh my gosh, that voice is powerful. No wonder you're Batman, you know? And then and we went back downstairs. We're interviewing this Batman cosplayer, and I was like, "Oh, who's your favorite Batman?" So, "Oh, Kevin Conroy." "Oh, well, he's here." You know, like the surprise reveal at The Price is Right or something. Here's your new car, you know. But he's here, and he was upstairs, and they went up, and he was gone. It was like, you know, and I saw him later. He looked like sad Batfleck, you know, his head was down. He's like, no, I didn't see him. And then like, no, I wasn't lying. I got a photo right here, you know. So I
look,
like
let me brag about it for a second. I got a picture too.
I got that guy's hopes like way up here, and then like crashing all the way down. I felt so terrible, you know. I felt awful.
I do have to agree with you, Leah. I like how like Josh, you totally went like you kind of totally bragged about it, like, no, look, I've got the photos.
I just didn't want him to think I was lying.
It really
you know?
happened.
I didn't want him to think I was lying to him. Like, oh no, Kevin Conroy wasn't here. I was just goofing on you, you know. Like I'd rather at least be truthful than you know say, oh no, never mind, you know.
Here, I'll send you my picture if you want.
Yeah, but you know, I felt really bad. But hopefully there'll be future conventions in the meantime. We'll get to meet our heroes. But that's really cool that you didn't even see him at a convention. You just saw him on the side of the street, and that's even more. I feel like that's almost more organic because I mean, at a con, like, actors kind of have to put, like, you know, they have to put a little front on, you know, they're there to speak with the fans and everything, which is great, you know. And to see Tim Daly like outside a con, just like, you know, in the middle of a, you know, movie set or on the street and on location, and him to be a friendly guy, even in that circumstance, that actually comes to reason with those, you know, that character, you know, his character.
Totally. Yeah, no, totally. It really was one of those kind of like, you know, you couldn't have planned it kind of moments, and it was.
And
really
you were
cool.
wearing this shirt.
Yeah. It's funny because if you go back and look at the picture, I have like a jacket on, but at the very, like, you know, where it's like unzipped a little bit, you could just see the like. The
I did see that. That's why I thought I was at a con. I was like, oh, it's too perfect. He's wearing his shirt, he's ready to go, That's awesome.
Yeah. There was a period of time where all I was wearing was just like the Superman logo shirt, and so it was a good day that I chose to wear that morning.
That was like my only wardrobe in high school, and even now, that's like I wear Superman shirts.
It's a classic. You can never go wrong.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no doubt.
So now, I'm sorry, Josh.
No, go ahead, Leah.
So since we're talking about, we've made the segue into Batman. What do you think about Robert Pattinson's Batman?
Oh, I'm all for it. I do like Batman a lot, and Batman is a character that I've been a fan of. I mean, growing up with the '90s movies, animated series, having the Dark Knight trilogy, Ben Affleck, and all of that. There's a lot of great Batman stuff out there. But when they announced Robert Pattinson as Batman, I was really excited by it because, again, it was like what we were talking about with like Supergirl, where it was very inspired casting. He wasn't anybody that anybody was talking about, and it's kind of like, not to kind of like talk about Superman again, but it was kind of like when they casted like Wonder Woman and Lex Luthor and all of them, where like nobody was thinking about like the people that they ended up going with. That wasn't even anybody on any like, fan list. And so I feel like with Pattinson, it was the same deal. Nobody was really talking about him being Batman. So when that announcement came out, it was really, really surprising. But I never really got into Twilight or any of that stuff. But I did watch like Good Times.
Guilty. Twilight, guilty.
Well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But I have seen him in a lot of like the films that he's done since then. And so the second he was announced, I was like, oh, like, he's gonna do something really different with it and something really cool. And I think like if like I were to probably scroll back enough, like I was talking about that and people were like, no, he's gonna suck, this is gonna be terrible. Then of course the trailer comes out at DC Fandom and everybody's like, oh, this is the best Batman ever.
Yeah, and everyone was won over at that point. Yeah.
And so Josh, I think Pattinson's gonna be great.
Mm-hmm. Well, Josh is a huge fan of his movie The Lighthouse, and we will have this argument till the day we pass, but I don't think it is a bad movie. It's just not a movie for me. But I agree with you.
For everyone. It's definitely not for everyone. But it's like a psychological horror thriller, that's not going to be for everyone,
Well, I agree with what Steven said about how it is so different. Like I cannot sit here and say, wow, that was a bad movie, because it was an entertaining movie. It was an intriguing movie. It makes you think, but someone else can walk into that theater and go, wow, that was the worst movie I ever saw. But again, it's Robert Pattinson. He is I now think he's becoming known for those different kind of roles. So it's interesting to see where, you never really know where he's going to pop up.
Oh, completely. Yeah. I really like The Lighthouse very much.
Yeah, Lighthouse is great.
Especially, you have Pattinson acting opposite Willem Dafoe, and so you just have like a movie driven on complete performance. But I think Pattinson's a very interesting actor, and to have him in this movie, you really, especially following up Christian Bale and Ben Affleck, it's a very tall order to take on that role and inherit the cape and cowl and not be compared to what's come before. And I feel like with Ben Affleck, I love Ben Affleck as Batman, and but I feel like the weight of the Dark Knight trilogy was very much on him. Whereas like with Pattinson now, it's like, okay, you've had some time since then, but it's got to be different. And I think clearly with what Matt Reeves is doing, they're leaning very heavily into that very like David Fincher Seven noir detective story, which we've never really seen that before. And from everything that we've seen, pictures and trailer, he looks like he's going to be a great Batman.
Yeah, it seems like they're taking elements from Year One Batman and The Long Halloween and kind of just making their own thing. And I am totally behind it. Once I heard he was announced as Batman, I was all for it. Even just an announcement, because I saw The Lighthouse. I saw how good an actor he is. I saw how he could drive down like those dark paths with those kind of characters, and I'm like, well, that's totally a Batman kind of kind of feeling. So yeah, I could totally see him behind the cowl, and I think with the trailer and whenever the movie comes out, you know, no one will be disappointed. I just don't know when the films are coming out anymore, just with all the craziness. You know?
I mean, like 2020, everything with like, you know, was delayed, and then now, I mean, you know, if they keep up with that model where it's like, you know, day and date with like theaters and HBO Max.
Yeah, I think that's
cool.
a good. I think that's a good model. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I know we're getting it. We're supposed to be getting it next year in March. So I think like you said, whenever it comes out, you know, just to see a new take on Batman, and you know, I just have to quickly mention the cast that they have: John Turturro, Paul Dano, you know, Andy Serkis. You know, there's so many different wonderful people that are populating that movie, and you know, you're getting the Riddler again, and you're getting Catwoman, and you know, it's going to be an exciting movie.
Andy Serkis is in it? What does he play?
He's going to be Alfred.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Andy Serkis. That's awesome. Well, it's good to actually see Andy Serkis without being behind like a CGI monster creature. You know, in recent years, people actually are starting to want to see Andy Serkis act as an actor, which is great. You know, it's good that he's a well-known actor now. Yeah. You know, most people probably know him as like Gollum or, you know, King Kong from 2005's Peter Jackson's King Kong. So it's great to actually see him out there.
We see him as a real actor.
Well, no, he was never not a real actor. It's just you know, it's great that he has the popularity and a namesake now that people know who Andy Serkis is. You know, back then people, you know, it would be like a niche thing, you know.
Oh yeah, but the Batman, I think that's going to be really cool. I mean, just we're getting a new Batman movie, and that's going to be really exciting.
With so I want to go back to Universal Monsters. So with Universal Monsters, you have a favorite Universal Monster, and is it the same? And is your favorite in your favorite Universal Monster movie?
Yes and no. I would. As a kid, growing up, I always loved The Mummy, and I love The Mummy from like the 1959 film with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Later on, I got into like Boris Karloff and Lon Chaney Jr. with their earlier Mummy movies. I was like The Mummy, where he's like more of like that proto slasher kind of monster, where you know he'd be like lumbering around, he would be strangling people, stuff like that. So the early like the 1932 Mummy movie was more fantasy, more romance in a sense. So I didn't really get into that until later on. But The Mummy and Dracula are my two favorite Universal monsters. Dracula would be my favorite Universal monster movie, but The Mummy would be my favorite Universal monster.
Okay.
And I appreciate all of them. I think it's kind of like the Justice League, where they're all cool. But if I had to like kind of like basically say like, look, these are the two that like I really love, easily Dracula and The Mummy, and I think they've also had a very good history with the movies, where all of the films that have been made through Universal and just through other studios have always been fun.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I just been starting to dive into the original classic Universal monsters. I've seen most of them. There's some I've seen in the past, like Frankenstein and stuff, and then we kind of just started with this past Halloween going into more classic horror movies, and it's a realm that I definitely want to get more delved into. I mean, we've seen Dracula, Bride of Frankenstein, which I think is superior to Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein. I think that's the better movie out of the two.
Yeah.
But I still haven't seen The Mummy or Wolfman yet, and those are two I'm very looking forward to watching with a fresh pair of eyes.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you have like the Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, Creature from the Black Lagoon is great.
They're also cool looking, and I think another thing that I normally really heavily like try and advertise and talk about is the fact that you're talking about this legacy of like 30 movies, and so people are always like, well, yeah, you have Dracula, Mummy, Wolfman, but then it's like, yeah, but then you have like Dracula's Daughter, Son of Dracula, House of Dracula,
exactly, all
of these like secondary movies, And when you get into the secondary movies with Universal, that's where they start, crisscrossing and like sharing like crossovers. And so Universal Monsters, it's not even like, arguably, they were the first cinematic universe that ever
no
do it.
doubt. Yeah.
And it's only like now that it's been perfected because, it wasn't being done like the way Disney or Marvel does it now, but they were the first ones to have like, Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman, Frankenstein or all these other characters. And so they're a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah,
they're short. Most of them are like 1 hour. So it's easy to kind of pop on, watch quickly, and just enjoy it.
Yeah, you definitely. I feel like you have to kind of prepare yourself for those movies because it's going to be a little like more toned back, but the atmosphere and the feeling and the mood—that's really what gets you sucked into the world. It's more like a dream like state when you're watching those movies, and that's what I love about them. Like I'm transported to its own world. It's definitely not ours, but it's something else, and I love that.
Yeah.
I love that feel about that.
Just complete atmosphere from set design to the makeup, and there's just so much charm to those movies that there's a reason why Dracula just celebrated its 90th anniversary last month, and we're still talking about it. And it's quite amazing to think that a movie that just turned 90, still has merchandise being made of it, and people still talking about it and celebrating it and wearing the T-shirts and stuff like that. And it's the same way in which like all these superheroes are timeless. They're these rightful icons and these variations of mythology for us. And so it's really cool to see that people still are entertained and enthralled by them on the big screen or even on the small screen.
Well, speaking of entertained, I'm perusing your Instagram. We've pretty much been on it all week since we talked to you last week. And you posted a picture of Carol Marsh from Horror of Dracula. Now, it's the one where she's in the coffin. For the first time I looked at it, I thought she was in a bathtub, and I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. But your caption was, "Does Dracula drink Pepsi or Coke?" Now, was there any debate on... Like, where did that come from?
Okay,
or was that just you, the modern twist on Horror of Dracula?
In the 90s, the Universal Monsters were being heavily licensed and marketed. And so really for the better part of that decade, like what I had mentioned before, they were everywhere, where you'd see them on like Doritos, Pepsi, Coca-Cola ads, the USPS, they had the whole issued commemorative line of Universal Monsters stamps. The figures were all year round, and it wasn't really just like an October thing. Like Universal Monsters were present for the whole year, and you could go anywhere, and they were always around. And they were also rightfully being championed as the studio's mascots, in the way that like the Looney Tunes for WB or like Mickey and Minnie are for Disney. They were being celebrated as the rightful mascots to the studio that really built horror in a lot of ways. And so in the early 90s, one of the more charming and popular advertisement marketing campaigns featuring the Universal Monsters was through Doritos and Pepsi. And so there were a lot of like cool, like very 90s art of like Dracula drinking a Pepsi, or like, Bride of Frankenstein and like the Wolfman at like a party holding like a bag of like potato chips and stuff like that. And roughly around the same time, Coca-Cola put out a commercial where it was a very it was like it opens in black and white, and you see Dracula come in to like into the woman's bedroom, and she's screaming, and he's gonna like sink his fangs into her. So she throws him a can of soda, he catches it, sinks his teeth into it, and then color comes back to his face. The whole commercial turns to color. The sun comes out. They smile at each other, and they just like they walk off into the sunset. And so I was having some fun with that because, with that I kind of wanted to just like throw it out there with people. Like, what do you think? Is Dracula a Pepsi guy, or is he a Coca-Cola guy? And there was so much marketing material that came out in support of that I was having fun. I was having a little bit of fun with that and getting people to talk, and in a unique way. That's not just about like, oh, well, like I really like this movie scene. It was a fun way to generate some fun conversation.
Absolutely, and
Like
you
it's like
have
the age-old question, like how does Superman shave? You know, does he
Right,
like
exactly.
shoot the heat vision in the mirror and it reverberates? Does he like have a kryptonite like like blade? Like how does he do it? So
Well, they
it goes
answered
back
it
to
in
that.
Superman the animated series with his laser vision in the mirror. So they answered
Yeah,
that
it
all the
was-
way back in '96. You know.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so with all that marketing with Universals in the '90s, do you have any favorite like collectibles of the Universal monsters from that era, or just in general?
Oh no, I do. So interestingly enough, the first I over the course of like this past year, I started collecting more of the Universal monsters,
Mhm.
specifically Dracula. I just really only collect that character, and I'm not a completist when it comes to the Universal monsters, so it's like really whatever I like. The Burger King. Burger King had a wonderful tie-in early '90s with the Universal monsters, where they had a Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, a Dracula, and Frankenstein figure, and they were like those like 3 3/4 inch figures, like the Kenner ones. They harkened back to like the '70s Remco Universal monster figures, which were very popular, and they were so cool because they were like actual quality action figures,
Mhm.
and they came with like a cool accessory where Dracula would spring out of the coffin, the Wolfman would burst out of a cellar, Frankenstein would light up and sit on like a operating table, and Creature from the Black Lagoon would light up and he would like absorb water and like you could squirt the water out of him and stuff like that. And
oh,
I remember at that time, like I had my mom and dad take me to Burger King like every weekend just to get it, to get those figures. And the one that I wanted the most was actually Creature from the Black Lagoon because I green was my favorite color growing up as a kid, and I just he was a monster, so he looked the
Yeah.
coolest to me. But I still have my Dracula one. It's funny because it's actually in the other room, and so that was like the first Universal Monsters collectible that I
Mhm.
ever had. I still have it, the one that I had from when I was a child. And so the Burger King Universal Monster toys mean a lot to me. And it's also kind of cool because I've seen a lot on Instagram people talk about them a lot. And it's kind of like that nostalgia thing where like people that grew up with that didn't have it are trying to get them now, and then kids now are finding out about all this cool stuff, and they're not really that expensive to go after on eBay or like Mercari or anything. So I see a lot of people go back and track them down, and I'm always really excited to see that because those were the Universal Monster toys that I had when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I got a little figurine of a Creature from the Black Lagoon. I got a aquarium fish tank. That's how hard COVID hit me. I was like, oh, I can't see my friends. I'll put my friends here. So I got a fish tank, and so now I have a little figure of the Creature from the Black Lagoon, like in the back, like between the reeds and stuff. So that's my little callback to the Creature from the Black Lagoon in the fish tank.
You have to send. I gotta see it. Yeah, when we're done doing this, you gotta send me a picture of that.
Oh
I
yeah,
love to see it,
definitely.
yeah.
I'll definitely show you. Yeah, it's like basically it's like a movie graveyard. That's the theme of the tank. So it's just like there's like a little Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in there, a Jaws thing, So
Yeah.
you'll see it. It's crazy in there. But.
it's quite the endeavor.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
no, I bet. I love that you have a Creature there. If there's anybody that should be in it, it's definitely
Oh yeah.
Creature.
That's how I felt. It's like, oh, that's the first figure I got to put in there. So it took me a little bit to find him, but I did find him. So
Yeah. Well, the Creature looks so cool, and again, that was the first Universal Monster toy that I ever wanted, and so Creature's great. He looks so cool.
Yeah.
The history behind the making of and the creation of that suit is another thing that's really so cool, and yeah, it's fun stuff. They're all so fun to look at.
Yeah, I got the whole Blu-ray collection. I've been looking through the behind the scenes after I watched the film. And there's so much immense information from those Blu-rays, and to be able to see the Spanish Dracula, that was being filmed simultaneously as the English version, which probably was not heard of. They're using the same sets.
Yeah.
They would film afterwards, so some of their shots would look better because they had like the reels to look at from the English version. Like, all right, what did they do? Oh, let's do this better. Okay, instead of Dracula slapping the mirror out of his hand, freaking have him smash it with like a cane or something. I loved how they just kind of all in. And I think those movies are great in their own ways, but like almost if you like if I want to marry like the cinematography from the Spanish one with Bela Lugosi's Dracula, that I think that would be great to see, because they did a lot of interesting camera tricks with it, and there's so much information.
Yeah, I know that's something that's like it's a widely debated aspect in the Universal Monsters and just the film community, because it's such an interesting story. Like how you said, how they were filming it at night, they had like dailies to look back on, and film wise, it's a beautiful film to watch, and there's a lot of shots in there that are far superior to the American 1931 version, or well, they're both 1931, but yeah, it's just it's so interesting, and it's like film history. It's a part of film history that if you like movies, even outside of just like being a fan of the Universal Monsters, it's so interesting to learn about all of that. And then you fast forward to today where almost in a Justice League kind of way, you have one version of the movie and then you have another, and so that's film.
Yeah, no, it's like its own multiverse, like you're saying before the multiverse. It's crazy how they did that. We got both versions. I do have a Creature from the Black Lagoon poster behind me. It's kind of there's a glare on it, but there is a poster there. So
I see it. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, so that's awesome that you got this Monsters universe, and it's such an immense universe to kind of dive into. That there's so many, like you're saying, there's so many sequels to even the original 1930s films, to 40s and 50s, and now on to today that we're getting announcements for all these new classic horror monsters, kind of reamped and for a new audience, a new generation.
Oh yeah,
which I'm interested to see.
Yeah, it's another fun universe that I really enjoy, and so over the past 5 years with that, it's been interesting to see from where it started to where it is now. And I'm excited just to kind of see where it'll be in the next 5 to 10 years, especially with so many new projects being lined up and new people acquiring the license to make merchandise. I think, if you're a fan of it, it's a good time to be excited by. And if you're only getting into it, it kind of, to me, oddly, it feels like it's a return back to the 90s. So I feel like for a lot of the people that follow the webpage and follow like Instagram, the Universal Monsters Universe Instagram page, if you're like of a certain age range and you're only becoming a fan now's a great time, because like you're getting
there's so much of it,
Blu-rays of the original movies, but you're getting new toys and you're getting new films. So there's a lot to really dive into.
Combining with the new.
Yeah.
I wanted to go with Dracula, Bela Lugosi. What do you think of Plan 9 from Outer Space, considered one of the worst films of all time, directed by Ed Wood of original Poughkeepsie fame? I'm from Poughkeepsie, so it's kind of has that hometown flavor. But anyway, what do you think of Plan 9, and have you seen it? What do you think of that whole episodic?
Yeah, I love, again, I love classic monsters. I love classic horror. I feel like the era from like really like 1928 to 1950s was definitely the strongest period, where you were having movies like Phantom of the Opera all the way to Creature from the Black Lagoon to the Blob. You have the Blob with like Steve McQueen. But the Ed Wood movies definitely have a charm. They're not the best. And there's a lot of interesting stories about about with him and all that stuff. I like the Tim Burton movie a lot with Johnny Depp and Mark Landau. It's not always that factually correct, but yeah, I like Plan 9 a lot. You have like Vampira in it, and there's a lot of charm to it.
Yeah, that's what got me interested in it, was that movie, the Tim Burton movie, the Ed Wood, it's like fantastical. It's like almost like Wizard of Oz-esque, he's meeting all these wonderful characters throughout his journey of being this filmmaker. And he turns out at the end of the movie, it's like so lighthearted. And then like slaps you in the face with the reality, you know, like he died penniless as a, you know, whatever, you know, giving his synopsis. And Bela Lugosi's passing was such a tragedy. And Martin Landau's performance in that is wonderful. But I tried to go back to, I was like, oh, okay, so now I'm interested in these movies. And then I was watching Plan 9. I was like, this is so boring. I'm going to fall asleep. I guess I mean, to be fair, I was like back in high school, so maybe I'll have a better tolerance for it now. But I don't think it's the worst movie ever made. I just think it has that title.
I mean, you know, you look at like Lugosi and, you know, Dracula, having Costello meet Frankenstein. You know, he was in the Wolfman.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah,
he was in, you know, like people forget that he was in the Wolfman. And he even played Frankenstein too. He was in Son of Frankenstein, then he was in Ghost of Frankenstein. A lot of people actually feel that his performance in Son of Frankenstein was even better than Dracula. And so, you know, especially that early stuff, you know, you're talking about somebody that really brought such a presence to these movies. And I think it's interesting at how with a lot of these actors, you know, they had very sad lives and they had very, you know, almost tragic ends, you know, where, you know, we look at them today and they're these larger than life icons, but, you know, the careers, you know, just weren't like where, like, you know, you're Robert Downey playing, you know, Iron Man across like X amount of movies.
Right.
And then you never have to act again because you just, you know, you're swimming in money. And, you know, you kind of think about like that now. And like, if like Lugosi had done Dracula now and it had that kind of longevity, you know, it would be a much different kind of story. But you know, it's sad, but I'm glad that these movies are being enjoyed, and movies like Ed Wood, like, you know, like of that kind of stuff that bring back, you know, attention to these actors, that that we can still talk about them to this day.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
No, what were you saying?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned how, you know, Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man, you know, his character stretches and grows throughout the Marvel movies. Meanwhile, with the Universal Monsters, you know, you have this one little treasure of a movie, yet both, I guess you can call it, I want to call them units, but both collections are treasured by such, you know, differentiated, diverse audiences. Meanwhile, there's so, you know, Marvel is obviously this huge mass, and you know, the movie's such a tiny, tiny little treasure.
Yeah, I mean, like back then, they all these roles, like comic book roles and monster roles, they're like pigeonholed. You know, like they're just typecasted. They just thought, oh, these are B movies. No one's going to care about these. Let's just burn the film reel because we have to save space or whatever, you know, however they want to conserve these films. And, you know, nowadays no one would have thought, like, you know, 90 years later or whatever, people would be watching these in 2021. And even with superheroes, like George Reeves' Superman, like he thought this, you know, playing Superman, he said was like, you know, wearing a monkey suit, you know, but now it's looked back on, those episodes are still being watched. And I think, you know, his performance as Superman is, you know, it's really renounced, and it's more real than I think people give it credit for, especially in the earlier seasons. You know, you could see the duality between him and Clark Kent prior to, you know, Christopher Reeve's Superman, and I think there's a lot to grasp on and you know, take a hold of that. And even with Adam West's Batman, you know, they were all typecast, and now today they're like, oh, every famous actor wants to be a superhero. Everyone wants a piece of that pie. So we have to thank those avenues that paved the road for the future of today.
Those pioneers.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, no, Leah, you're absolutely right. They were absolute pioneers in what they did, you know, because they laid the groundwork for what, you know, we all appreciate now. And you know, like whenever there's like these casting announcements and stuff like that, and where you look back at any of these movies, like the level of talent that are involved is like just staggering, where it's like, I can't believe, you know, I remember when Batman Begins came out and when they were announcing, you know, when people were being cast for that, and you had like, you know, Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman and Liam Neeson, and it was just kind of like, you look at the list and it's like it's unbelievable the level of talent that you have in that movie. And to think, you know, back, you know, 20 years, you know, prior, you wouldn't really associate any of those people, with a movie like that. And yeah, absolutely. From like, the work of like Universal Monsters to all the way to now, every, I think, A-list star wants to be in like a Marvel movie,
Yeah, no doubt.
and do something cool with it.
Well, it's interesting, I always kind of laugh because I am a huge fan of, kids' movies and everything cheesy and funny. But I have to laugh I remember there was one part in Lego Batman, when Alfred's going back through all the different Batmans that have happened, and he says, and, there was that weird time with, in the 60s, and it's the Adam West Batman, but they go through all the different time periods, and I think that's so interesting for someone, especially a young kid watching these movies to see, wow, Batman has really grown. I mean, as a kid, you may not have that perspective, but as a grown-up watching these movies, that might intrigue someone to go back and watch the Adam West Batmans or, a later time period and just see how the character has changed.
Oh, yeah, no, I gotta say, I actually only saw the Lego Batman movie for the first time back in January. I wanted to see it when it came out, and for whatever reason, I missed it. And so I only just saw it, so it's so fresh in my mind. And I love the song that opens the movie that the guy from Fall Out Boy does. Who's the Batman, I think it's called. But yeah, no, yeah, I mean, you're so right, because the thing is, you do get that rundown, which is so cleverly done, where you get that like abbreviated like history of the character, and again, I think with any new interpretation, be it a character like Batman or Superman or Supergirl or Universal Monster, somebody's going to go into it, and my thing is always like, there are people that are like, no, I'm not for this. I think this is going to be terrible, and it's like. But just like for the Universal Monsters, for example, like just using that, like there's a new Dracula movie announced, and you get somebody that's like, no, this is terrible. They should never do this. But it's like, but don't you understand that like with this new movie, there's going to be a group of people, that are going to see this, and this is going to be their introduction to this world. This is going to be the gateway back to the classics. So there's going to be somebody that's going to go into the Lego Batman movie, see Batman Forever, and think, wait, like I want to see that movie, and they're going to go back and watch Batman Forever. They're going to go back, like you said, and watch the TV show with Adam West. And I think that that's really a powerful thing to think about, how any new iteration will draw people back to the original stuff. And I think that that's something that a lot of times people don't really think about. And for me, it's kind of like, yeah, Superman Lois is going to introduce somebody new to these characters, and they're going to go back to the comic books, or, Man of Steel. That's going to be the movie that's going to bring people back, to the other Superman stuff that came before it. And that's how we kind of keep on bringing it forward. So,
yeah, there's a starting point for everyone.
Everything you're saying right now is reminding me of, the Ghostbusters that came out in 2016. Now, people argue that it wasn't, a very good movie. I see Josh is kind of making a face right now. But I guarantee you that movie brought people back to the original, because they said, oh, wait a minute, Ghostbusters was around, even before Kristen Wiig and Chris Hemsworth were in it. But you have people that argue, oh no, it was good, and then you have people, oh, that was awful. But now that there's a new Ghostbusters coming out, which unfortunately they keep pushing back, but I'll be very interested to see how younger audiences, and I suppose the older audience as well, how everyone interprets it, with such different interpretations coming before it.
Yeah.
I just want my Ecto Cooler. I just want to go to the store, pick up Ecto Cooler, and have it well stocked in the fridge.
I think they
and
had
be
it
on
for
my merry
limited
way.
time in 2016 when that movie came out. I think they did.
They did. They brought it back, and I still have a few boxes.
Oh wow, yeah. I haven't had it since the 90s, so I would have to try some. Hopefully, when the new movie comes out. But I guess the Ecto Cooler of today is Dan Aykroyd's Crystal Skull Vodka. So I kind of went up the stage with that.
No.
I wonder if anyone crossed Ecto Cooler with the the Crystal Skull vodka. I wonder if that's like cannoned or something. If someone labeled that, trademarked that drink.
I'm sure someone out there has.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
If you
If you have done it, let us know in the comments below what it tastes like, if it's any good.
send us recipes.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about all these crossovers and Marvel and DC, and now I have to ask you: have you been watching WandaVision?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Every week, every Friday, like around like 8 o'clock or so. Like once the work day is done, just I'm gonna have dinner and I watch it and yeah, I've been enjoying it.
It is enjoyable. Now like I said, I'm perusing your Instagram and you have a very specific post about Monica Rambeau. Now what is your connection to her?
Okay, so in regards to, I'm trying to like think for a second of the picture, but I'm a big Captain Marvel fan. I love. I'm a big sci-fi person, and so one of the things that I love just as much as Universal Monsters and Superman is Star Trek, and I love Star Trek, and I love all of that kind of stuff. And so Captain Marvel, when the character first started out, Marvel one, of course, before it was Carol Danvers, Marvel, that was birthed in the time of the space age, where it was like 70s sci-fi, aliens, intergalactic travel, stuff like that. And so I've been a fan of Captain Marvel for a while. I love the Captain Marvel movie. It's actually my favorite MCU entry. And so when I left that movie, and I do routinely watch it, I was so excited to see that story continue. And I feel like Iron Man, we got Iron Man 2, 2008 to 2010, and then from like 2011 with Thor 1 to I think 2013, 2014 with Thor: The Dark World. You get them really fast, but Captain Marvel, they've really kept us waiting on the sequels. So when WandaVision was announced and we found out that we were going to be getting the character of Monica Rambeau in it, but as an adult, and we were going to see that character arc continue from when she was a child in the movie to now an adult, I was totally sold on it. And so for me, I like WandaVision, but I'm actually invested in it only really because I'm interested in that character. Like when the pops come out, I don't need a Vision pop, I don't need a Wanda pop, but I want a Monica Rambeau pop. Mm-hmm. And
see, I am all about Vision. I will preach Vision till the day I die. I adore him.
No, he's great. Vision is great. But yeah, no, I love Monica Rambeau. So I'm excited to see how that story is going. I'm excited to see how that's laying the groundwork for Captain Marvel 2. And I'm excited for the Ms. Marvel TV show, and I'm excited to see how Captain Marvel 2 will begin a story and feature all three of them together. And then it's kind of like building off of like everything that we saw in these shows where, you've already spent like 13 episodes with Monica and like 13 episodes with Ms. Marvel. So by the time that movie happens, there's a lot of history with those characters. So yeah, I love Monica Rambeau.
Oh yeah. Well, Steven, I just have one more question for you, and I think or that's all the time we have for today.
Sure.
But before we go, I just wanted to ask you, do you have any favorite Superman collectibles that you have? I'm sure that Tim Daly one is probably, up there at number one. But do you have, that, or besides that, do you have any that kind of come in mind?
So that's a big question. I've been collecting. So when I started collecting Superman in late 2012, I knew. So when it comes to Superman, I'm very much a completist, and I knew that if I were to try and go back and get everything Superman, I would never be able to get everything, and I would never have the money to get everything. So luckily for me, DC was doing a thing called the New 52, which I know everybody's heard of, and they envisioned him with a whole new suit. And I thought, starting here, anything Superman with no trunks, with the New 52 outfit, I'll get. And then anything from Man of Steel onwards, I'll get. So I collect everything New 52, Rebirth, Henry Cavill, Superman. The only exception is I'll get anything Superman, the animated series. So out of the almost museum-like collection that I have for Superman, which I have to offer an updated video sometime soon on, it's really hard to say like what I particularly cherish above all. So if I had to pick something really just off the top of my head, I would probably have to say I have an animated cell from Superman the Animated Series of Livewire. She's my favorite Superman villain. She's my favorite DC Comics villain. I had the good fortune of actually meeting Lori Petty at Rhode Island Comic Con, probably in 2015.
We were there too. That's funny. We were at that Comic Con.
Yeah, it was a good one. And so I got to meet her. She signed it, and so it's a signed animated cell that I got, which was actually a little tricky for me to obtain. And my Livewire animated cell, signed by Lori Petty. If I had to pick one Superman collectible that means the most, it'd probably be that. But based on mood, I could wake up tomorrow and think, you know what, it's that Superman animated series bust.
Yeah.
They're,
it's
Hot Toys.
Yeah.
Do you spin a wheel like, oh, today this is my favorite. Oh, this is my favorite.
It all depends on the mood, and so if Zack Snyder's Justice League comes out and ends on the cliffhanger, and I'm totally mad that we're never going to get another one, and I'm totally mad that we're never going to see Henry Cavill again. If they say he's never coming back, then it won't be anything Henry Cavill. I'll say those are my least favorite collectibles.
Right. So when you were you standing in line with the animation cell to get signed? Is that what you did?
Yeah, I was. Yeah,
Whoa,
I was there
that's
in Rhode
awesome.
Island for 2 days. I went just because I wanted to meet Lori Petty, and so she signed it. She was nice. On my last day before I had to catch Amtrak back to New York City, I went to say goodbye to her, and she remembered me from the day before. She was like, "Oh, I have something for you," and she had like a Livewire photo that she signed personally for me.
Oh,
and,
wow.
she had remembered that I was going on about Livewire from the day before, and I had my I wear glasses, and so I had my glasses, my Superman shirt on, so I was kind of recognizable, I guess, enough too.
Yeah.
And she was like, if that guy comes back, I want to give him this, and she did, and she was really, really cool.
That is so
cool
awesome.
She saved that for you. That's so awesome.
Yeah. And so I proudly have that framed by my Superman stuff, and so I would probably go with Livewire. At the end of the day, it's always about Livewire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
I'll revamp the Superman show and just make it like the Livewire.
Yeah,
Saturday morning Livewire.
That'll be cool. I mean, I'm totally for it. I'll definitely do it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get back to just before we close off with hopefully with all the fans' reactions to the new Justice League movie that's coming out. I think that Warner Brothers kind of wait for that announcement. At least this is what I'm hoping, that they're waiting for how people react to the new Justice League movie, and then they'll go like, "Oh, people really like this. They like Henry Cavill. Let's keep them going." So that's what I'm hoping for. I hope because we haven't gotten a yes or no yet, and it's been such a freaking tease game for since Batman versus Superman or Justice League, and fans just want to know, is he in or out? Just let us know. We could handle it. It's going to be a hard punch to the gut, but just I've been flexing my abs for years just to say get that punch that just tell me no, or yes, just let me know. I need answers. I just need to know.
I mean, Leah, it's one thing, it's something that I'll have to send to both of you. It's with enough scrolls on my personal Instagram, you'll see that I do talk about Henry Cavill a lot with him being Superman and being the definitive Superman for me. And I agree with you. I've been, we've been on pins and needles ever since Man of Steel came out, just wanting them to do a Man of Steel 2. And we got Batman versus Superman. We're finally getting Justice League in its fully realized vision. But we need to know, is he still Superman? Is he not?
Exactly.
What are they doing?
And we got so many teases, with him on his Instagram, holding a Superman toy. I'm like, oh, something's gonna be announced. I'm like, nope, it's just him screwing with everyone. I guess I don't know.
Just pull the Band-Aid off. Yeah. Pull the Superman Band-Aid off.
Yeah, I mean, at least put him in I know I like The Rock a lot, but also he pisses me off because it's like he does a lot of that teasing too. And it's like, Black Adam, like, are we getting Superman in it? Are we not?
Right.
Is Superman ever going to face off against him? Is Superman going to be in Shazam? One day they say he's going to be in the new one. The next day they say he's not. I just just tell us right now, is he still Superman or not?
Yeah, that one shot at the end where it's oh, come on.
Yeah, in the sequel, they'll show Superman, but it'll be from the neck down. That's all you're gonna see.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole movie, he'll be walking around like that.
That'll be now the running joke that the director David Sandberg does, where he'll purposely have Superman in it, but like it'll always
exactly.
Be, where it'll be like Wilson from Home Improvement, but
it's a complete opposite. Yeah. No, that's great. That's a good reference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Steven, this was an awesome time. I'm so glad that you came on the podcast. We definitely would love you have you back on. There's so many questions I have written down that I have yet to answer, but we could be talking for 4 days straight in a row. So we'll save it for another time.
This is the last. I really had a lot of fun doing this.
I'm so glad that it worked.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked out. This was really smooth. This was awesome. So thank you for being our first live podcast interview. Thank you for a round of applause. That was awesome. But I guess we're ready to close episode and we'll be good to go.
Okay, yeah, no, I just want to first again just say thank you so much to both you, Josh and Leah, for having me. I was really we've been talking again for a while, and so to finally be able to collaborate and do this together, it meant a lot. And from last week, even all day today, this was what I was thinking about, where it's I want to do it, and I hope it works, and I'm glad that it did. And
this was great.
Yeah,
that means a lot, because we were thinking the same thing.
I know,
is this gonna work?
I know. That's what I was having in the back of my mind. I'm like, oh, please, just let the universe combine finally. We need this crossover right now.
It's as long and arduous a road to getting Henry Cavill back as Superman. It's been.
This is step one, this collaboration. This is gonna set force Henry Cavill to come back into the universe, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure.
Now we do always tell our guests, if you ever have anything that you're promoting that you want us to mention, or if you want to collaborate on something, or if you say, hey,
back on the show, talk about whatever.
Yeah,
we're always
I'm working on this. Yeah, if you want to say, hey, I'm working on this, I'd love to advertise, we'd be more than happy to post for you and have you back on.
Well, I really appreciate that. I had such a blast doing it. I've actually started recording new episodes of Saturday Morning Superman show. Because with Universal Monsters, that sometimes takes up all of my day, and that's not even my career. But Superman, something that I've been having a lot of fun with. I've been having a lot of fun getting back into that world with all the announcements, and so to know that door is open for collaboration and everything, that really means a lot, and I really appreciate that, and I can't wait to come back.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so we'll just do the closing statement. If you have any questions on it, we usually have the opportunity that it's already recorded and we could edit it out, but since it's live, there's no editing, so that's okay. But yeah, if you have any questions, before we do the closing statement, just let us know. If not, we'll just kind of get right into it.
I'm good.
Okay, awesome. All right, 3, 2, 1. And this is Josh from BatYard's Finest, sending you off up and away until next BatYard's Finest episode.
That's you, Steven.
Oh, shoot. I already screwed up.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No, I know we talked about it hours ago, so it's that's why.
And bringing is this the and bringing?
We could do it again. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, becoming super friends one episode at a time.
Okay, so, I got it.
Yeah, all you. But yeah, we'll just do it again. Leah, if you want to say anything, feel free. I know this is kind of haphazard.
Yeah, I'll say my little bit.
All right, yeah, we'll go in order. We'll go 1, 2, 3, and then that'll be episode.
Oh, so, okay. Yeah, I'm ready to do that finish. I got it.
Awesome. No problem. Okay. That's a part of the charm. We do this all the time, even with people who frequently come on. I do this with my buddy Matt. We always screw up the outro, but it's kind of part of the charm of it. All right. All right. 3, 2, 1. This is Josh from BatYard Productions, sending you off up, and away until next BatYard's finest episode.
And I'm Leah, all the way from Themasira.
And I'm Steven from Saturday Morning Superman Show. And we're bringing Super Friends together, one episode at a time.
Yeah, that was awesome. Steven, thank you so much for coming on again, and you're always welcome. So we're going to sign off. Bye, everyone.